So apparently, according to a Lions beat reporter, and yes, that's exactly what Mike Payton is, Lions beat reporter for A to Z Sports NFL, he claims that the Lions were trying to trade up in the first round and take Shemar Stewart. So, in theory, they were. In theory, we could have traded down. That's what he's claiming, okay? In theory, we could have traded down as they were trying to trade up to take Shemar Stewart. Now, I want to say, take this report with a grain of salt. Okay, yes, he's a beat reporter. Yes, he's for A to Z Sports. Yes, he's an insider. Put quotation marks. He says, I think the Lions tried to trade up for Texas A&M Shemar Stewart on Thursday night. Now, he does say, I don't need to go into specifics, but there were times we made attempts to get one. And they got picked before, and you couldn't get up. It takes two to trade. Okay. Now, where's the proof that happened? Well, the proof that happened is the same proof that, it's the same proof that Chiefs fans are good people. Anyway, there is no proof. There is no proof. His proof is that the Lions picks are all based on their top 30 visits. And because Shemar Stewart was still on the board and he was a top 30 visit, that's why they particularly was trying to get him. And that's why they were trying to trade up to get him. That's the proof. I'm going to officially check off every single person that ever calls himself a beat reporter and say, you don't know ball. Yeah, he says this. So there's proof that the Lions attempted to trade up for one. Why do we think it was Shemar Stewart? It's all based on the top 30 visits. The Lions really seem to love picking guys they have in those visits. Isaac, Tessia, and Tyleek Williams are more proof of that. We probably find Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier come in at 2 at some point. The Lions just had 3 edge rushers in for 30 visits, and only one of them was a first-round guy. That guy was Shemar Stewart. He ended up going 17 to the Bengals. So, what? Okay. They took Tyleek Steven, what is his name? Tyleek Williams at pick 26. What to say they weren't trying to trade up thinking that somebody was going to take him earlier, and they tried trading up to get him. And it ended up being that he just fell to them at pick, 26. Like, what stops that narrative from happening? Because at the end of the day, yeah, they could have tried to trade up to get Shemar Stewart, and I get it, the top 30 visits, whatever. But, maybe they thought in their brain that Williams was going to be taken before their pick. So they said, wow, we should trade up to make sure we get the guy. I mean, yeah. Or you could say that maybe they got him because he fell to them, and that's why they took him at 26. But there's no actual proof of who they were trying to pick up. Because, again, there's only one. They said they had 3 edge rushers in the top 30 visits. Only one of them was a first-round guy. Okay. So only one of the guys that was on their list of edge rushers they brought in was a round 1 guy. So if they're trying to trade up, what if they're not trying to trade up for an edge rusher? What if they were trying to trade up for a different player? Again, I'm not trying to be that guy, but we got to take all things in consideration here. It's not guaranteed they're trying to trade up to take him. They could be trying to trade up to take anybody. Maybe they thought another player shouldn't have been falling or was falling, and they thought maybe they wanted Walter Nolan. What about that? Maybe they were trying to trade up because the Cardinals took Walter Nolan right before our pick. Maybe they were like, wow, we want Walter Nolan. Let's trade up and try to get him. They didn't get him. Maybe that was a guy they were trying to trade up for. Maybe, I guess did they not bring in Walter Nolan? Hang on, let me look this up. Lions top 30 visits. I feel like many teams do this. They bring in a lot of guys. They do. They bring in a lot of players to potentially see who the best player is. So edge rushers, they brought in Shemar Stewart, Josiah Stewart, and Q Robinson. They bought in Derek Harmon. They bought in. Maybe they were trading up to try to get Derek Harmon. That's a possibility. I mean, they could have easily been trying to trade up to get Derek Harmon. So they didn't bring in. Greg Zabel went to the Seahawks before that. Maybe they tried to trade up to get Greg Zabel. Like, again, Dylan Fairchild, you're kind of trying to make a storyline here that I don't know if it's there. I will admit, the only guys they really could have brought in would have been Derek Harmon. I mean, the only guy that in this theory that could have worked was Derek Harmon, Shemar Stewart in the end, right? Potentially, I mean, because none of these guys are first-round picks. Maybe they were trying to trade up and get Matthew Golden because Tom Grossi wanted him. And maybe, they saw Tom Grossi wanted him, so therefore they were trying to do the Brian Branch thing again. I'm sorry, if we're using this kind of logic, I'm just gonna run with it. None of those guys were first-round picks. So, I mean, yeah, maybe. So these are the only three was Derek Harmon, Shemar Stewart, or they thought that Williams out of Ohio State was going to get taken first. I think the likely story was Derek Harmon. That's the story I think that is the truth. I think they were trying to trade up to get Derek Harmon because they thought they might be able to trade up and get him. And they probably thought, hey, the Steelers will probably get this guy. The Steelers have Cam Hayward. He's, kind of on that period about to retire. They need somebody to replace him. While we don't want him to go to them, because there's a lot of teams right before the Lions picked at 26 that wanted Derek Harmon. So that's also another thing. And maybe they thought the Bengals might take Derek Harmon. Maybe that's another guy they were kind of thinking about. I think this is a reach to say it was 100% Shemar Stewart who they were trying to trade up for. I think that there's a couple options, but who knows? At the end of the day, this is not a Lions personnel saying this. It's not a person in the Lions organization trying to say this. I don't know. I think this is a reach. That's my personal opinion, though. I think this is a reach. But peace out.